So we want to find a polar representation for the complex number z with theta in the interval from 0 to 2 pi. So let's do that first of all. So here's z. I'm going to plot z, and z is just 3 on the real axis, so right there. This could be written as 3 plus 0 I. So if I write this in polar form, that is when we have the modulus, which is 3, because the modulus is how far from the origin the point is, and that's out 3. And then cosine of the angle, well, it's right on the x-axis, and so that's 0 plus I sine of 0. So a shorthand way of writing that, because this angle is always the same, is they'll write 3 CIS and then the angle, whoops, I'm so used to writing theta, then the angle 0, and it stands for cosine I sine. So this is the same thing, and you can enter it like that. And so now it says to identify the real part, so this stands for the real part of the complex number, and that's 3. And then it says identify the imaginary part, and that's 0. So real part, imaginary part. Now we're supposed to write the modulus of z, and again that's how far it is from the origin out here to the point, and so that's 3. And then it wants to know the angle arg, and this arg is specially defined. It's an angle, but it's an angle that is in between negative pi and pi, and it could equal pi. So if we think of this visually, if you're measuring off the positive x-axis, you could go around here to pi, or you can measure the other direction around here to negative pi. So we have to give the arg is the answer to this, an angle that's on in that interval from negative pi to pi. So in this case, 0 is on that interval right there, and we can just put 0 then because it's in between negative pi and pi. Now looking at this next one, if we were to plot this one, it's 4 in the negative direction along the imaginary axis. This could also be written as 0 minus 4i. So writing it in polar form, the modulus, how far away it is there, is 4, and then we can do the CIS, and the angle between 0 and 2 pi would be around like this, which would be 3 pi halves. So there it is in its polar form. The real part of the number is 0, and the imaginary part is negative 4. Now we need the modulus of z, and that's 4. And then we also need the arg. The capital A is when you know it has to be on this interval. And so I can't put 3 pi halves because that is not on this interval. What I'm going to need to do is measure from 0 in the negative direction to get to there. And so that's going to be negative pi halves.